Hello, hello, hello. Welcome to the Tendencies channel. On this channel, we talk about the controversies that accompany the Black empowerment movement. We discuss everything scripture. We discuss um, everything that concerns you as somebody who is of African descent and beyond. Indeed, we discuss the truth here, and no matter the color, no matter your color, white, brown, black. You are welcome here. Here we do not discriminate. And the Bible says that I saw all people of all tongues, standing before the throne of God for judgment. In other words, the what I represent is universal. It is not limited by any color. You can call me the philosopher. You can also call me elder. I respond to any of them. Um, if you have not subscribed on you're on YouTube, have not subscribed, please do that right now. Click the subscription button. Um, Click the notification button so that when new videos are loaded, you'll be able to get notified. Just comment, suggest things I can talk about. I mean, just comment, and let's actually work towards monetizing this channel. Let's work towards getting the 2,000 subscribers. Tell a friend to tell a friend to tell a friend, and let's monetize this channel. What are we talking about today? Here, um, whether it's on Facebook or it's here on YouTube, here we talk about the things that limit us as a people. And for this series that I've been doing over this past weeks, and that means if you have not seen any of the series, you can check any of the yeah, whether up to left or bottom or right. You can check any of the cards and it will take you to the series. You'll be so empowered. You'll be shocked the kinds of things you do and believe which are limiting you, which have nothing to do with any spiritual thing, but have all to do with habits and consequence of years of deprivation, years of subjugation, years of abuse. So, what are we talking about? This is also very significant and it's very prevalent amongst people of color. And we want to talk about the signs that somebody is mentally enslaved. You know, Bob Marley in his popular song, Emancipate Us from Mental Slavery. I don't know whether that is really the title of the song, but that is the line I remember. Emancipation from mental slavery. And he talks about prophets and the rest. Today you can take me as your prophet, even as I'm telling you. These are the ways that has been set by the Almighty to get any black person's mind, disabuse of all the junk that has been deposited in his over centuries. Now, if you hear somebody expressing these views, if you hear somebody living by these these rules or these ideas, then you know that the person is mentally enslaved. Remember, just the previous video we did was wrong beliefs that blacks hold about whites. So those are beliefs. Now, these are views expressed or messages that people who are mentally enslaved like to preach. These are the messages of the mentally enslaved black person, or these are the messages of the mentally enslaved black person. And you hear them preach this everywhere they get the opportunity, sometimes even in church. The first message that the mentally enslaved black person likes to preach is that Africans do not support each other. And I said that there's also an idea of that, a wrong idea that we got about each other. Africans are the most supportive people you can get anywhere. I mean, is it a funeral? Is it an outdooring? What occasion do people not leave everything they're doing and rush to come and help us? In fact, we are so supportive of each other that when other people come from the West, they get amazed as to how much time we have for each other. They can't believe it. You know, People are ready to go all out to actually support. We're able to go all out to support others in their time of need, in their time of celebration. I mean, people are ready to go all out. So traditionally and basically, Africans are supportive of each other. But for the mentally enslaved, it is only whites that are supportive of each other. Africans are not. And sometimes they even bring it as far back as nations. They'll say Ghanaians are not supportive of each other. No. Whenever you begin to spread that view, you are you have come under the influence of mental slavery. And that will not help you to advance any cause of any African or African nation, of any colored person. The colored people support each other. We should not express and believe the narrative that we don't. Otherwise, the consequences what we see on the streets, where we have our young men killing each other, what we see in the forest, where we have tribes and factions killing each other. We support each other to the hilt, and nobody should convince us of anything otherwise. The second thing is that anytime there's a job, anytime there's an opportunity, if the first thing that you say to yourself is that, well, if there was a white person here, or if there's somebody of a whiter skin, you would have done this job better, or this job would have been done by a white person better. Whenever a black person, an African, does something, if your notion is that were it a white person randomly, that white person would have done better, then you have come under mental slavery. And the song that Bob Marley sang is truly a song for you. You have to be emancipated, saved. Because there's no rule in this world that says averagely white people are better at doing anything than black people. There's no such rule. It has not been proven anywhere. So for you to hold the notion that some work that you are doing, or some product that you're expecting to have been done, that naturally, I mean, all things being equal, a white person would have done it better, shows that you are under mental slavery and you need to be emancipated now. The third thing that um, people under mental slavery like to express is that blacks are good for sports and entertainment, whilst whites excel in industry and research. This idea is one of the key ideas of the educated white supremacists. They believe that our strength is usually the basic one, just brute force for running, for kicking, pushing and things like that. And that they are the more evolved of our species who are more into the higher levels of thinking and organization. Therefore, in anything, the black should be pushed into sport. That's what I'm pushing to the thinking so that they can think for us whilst we do more of the force or strength work. That couldn't be further from the truth, really. As I've told you, I mean, even in the design of Washington, D.C., there was a black person who was part. There isn't any endeavor in life, no matter how high, even as far as we going into space, there hasn't been anything. Normally we say this is not as difficult as rocket science. Indeed, there are blacks that have been part of, you know, actually calculating the orbit of rockets and have actually been part of the space program, landing things on moon, landing things on any planet, and blacks have been part of these things. There is no scientific proof that our brains are incapable of any high computational abilities, or they are far lower. We have all kinds of physicists, whether futuristic or whatever, and they are not in any color. They are of all colors. So the idea that blacks cannot think, cannot compute, is a completely enslaved idea of the colonial past. Our brains are the same. There's no difference. There is no difference whatsoever with our brains and the brains of our Caucasian counterparts. So if you hold the view that in thinking is done better than white, then you are mentally enslaved, and that may be the reason you are where you are in life. You need to do something about it now. Now, this thing is very common. That's what this I've even heard professors say it. This is the fourth one. The fourth, doctrine of the mentally enslaved, especially African, is that whites are inherently better leaders than blacks. And I just don't understand because in the beginning of history, the right history, the one that the Bible talks about, those who started being strong, the Nimrods and the rest, they all descended of Ham, from which all black people descend. So their kingdoms came, their kingdoms ruled until we moved to that of Shem. Their kingdoms also ruled in the Middle East and the rest. And lately, Japhet's kingdom is ruling, which is the descendant of the Caucasians and the rest. There hasn't been any real dominance of any group or the other. Just that in this time of enlightenment, in this time of abundant knowledge, the people that seem to have, even that one they seem to have the power is the Caucasians. And you can see how they are struggling even as that power shifts back because the whole thing is working again counterclockwise. It started from those of the black descent to those who of Asian origin, and went to the Caucasians. Now it's shifting back. And there's this struggle about the Americans and the rest, even as they are losing power because it's shifting back, to China. And obviously it will shift back to Africa. So leadership has always been a factor of the individual and his relationship with God. It has not been by reason of any color. That is why even in Africa there were kingdoms, there were kingdoms all over, ruled by mighty kings who did great, great, great things. Kings that built entire churches out of a single rock, a feat of engineering that has not been repeated since. Kings that got their own language, had their own calendar and everything, all in Africa, in Ethiopia, with all the history. Look at Egypt, look at the kingdom of Kush, look at all the Put. These are all mighty, mighty kingdoms led by Africans, black people. You know, Kingdoms that threatened the kingdom of the descendant of Shem in the Middle East, threatened them, and the rest took some even as slaves at a point in time. You know, and ruled so many, 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 many places. Look at the Carthage kingdom. To Tunisia, Carthage. This was the Black Kingdom. By Berbers and the rest. And these are mighty, mighty kingdoms that did mighty, 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 mighty things. And they were all led by Africans. They were all led by blacks. They were led by Berbers. They were led by, Africans of what colors, colored people. So leadership has never been a function of a color. Now, if you want to understand why of late you seem to hear a lot about African having poor leaders and the rest, check out my video on why Africa produces poor leaders and you understand. Check it out. Just go through the playlist on my channel and then find out why Africans are poor leaders of late. I've explained it there severally. Years of being prevented from leadership, centuries of indirect rule, and all kinds of string pulling of nations which are now richer. On our leaders have presented the kind of leaders we have of late. But before them, we had great leaders. Look at Mansa Musa, a man that built an entire city for college, Timbuktu, and several colleges, several hundred colleges were there. People came from all over the world to study. He has still over 100,000 books that are in storage from that period alone. Books whose copies are single, not in any Smithsonian, in any museum. Complete translations of writings of Aristotle and the rest. And also, we could not have produced poor leaders. If somebody is saying that, it's because the person knows you don't know your history. So it is a mentally enslaved person that posits that who posits that Africans are inherently poor leaders. It is a wrong mindset. No matter who is saying it, no matter what letters are before that person's name, tell that person that the person is mentally enslaved. Tell the person philosopher says so or other says so. Okay, let's go to the fifth one so that we can, bring to rest part one of the doctrines or messages of the mentally enslaved African. The last message or last doctrine they like to posit or idea they like to talk about is that without white Africans or without white Africans or blacks will be lost or uncivilized. You do hear that? I'm sure you've heard this severally. This is another thing that was drummed in the head of enslaved Africans when they complained of brutalities. Initially, it was that we didn't have souls, so it means we're not fully human. But when that was the man, because now they realized that we did have souls and we worship and the rest. How can we worship when we don't have souls? So then, when the idea came that we were to be evangelized or to be, converted, then we needed to have souls to be converted. So then that issue was no more there. So then what it is was that we were uncivilized, we were primitive, and then it's by our liberation, it's by the liberation of us that we were liberated from the primitiveness that we lived in. Oh my goodness, such sweet lies. Indeed, we were not, as you have seen, I've mentioned kingdoms, but there were kingdoms that became Christian kingdoms. There were empires, that built, that sculpted, that have intricate designs of pillars and walls and the rest, just like Egypt and all of that, which even precedes that of Europe, you know. And these are all things which are still there. The great Zimbabwe, you know. I mean, walls that were built. Look, go to Benin Kingdom, so we were not uncivilized. That is a lie that has persisted. And since that, most times when they show those days, they still show us in some scanty apparel, that we didn't even know what mirror was on the rest. Please, please, you know, these are all lies that have been written in books. And because we were made to see, they talk about fake news now, but fake news started several years ago. Just as those days they were in books and were made to believe that everything in book was correct. There are a lot of histories being rewritten now. And we're told all kinds of lies about the one who discovered the compass and the one who discovered America and the rest. And we found out that now all these were not true. And yet, because of these reasons, people kowtowed to abuse because these people were supposedly, civilizing them. So it is not true. I don't care what degree you have before your name. It is not true. We were more than civilized. As I said, we had books, we had monasteries, we actually had universities. You know, we made plywood. I mean, what did we do? We were more than civilized. In fact, it took a long time for for the for the conquering or the colonialists to subdue kingdoms like the Ashanti kingdom, actually the Zulu kingdom, and all of those things. How can people who are uncivilized, how can they fight you to a point where a home army had to take years before you can subdue them? So these are all lies that they said so that they could sleep at night for all the atrocities they were committing, that they could sleep at night. But it's not true. And so once again, let's recount the five doctrines, or should I say the five messages that the mentally enslaved African like to preach. The first one is that um, Africans do not support each other, but white people do. Um, um, a white person's job is always better than a black person's job. Um, and then third, blacks are good for sports and entertainment, whilst whites excel in industry. In the beginning, the industry, most sports and entertainment were all dominated by blacks. It was when blacks were allowed to join that they have eventually taken over. That should tell you the strength and resilience of our people. And then four, um, whites are inherently better leaders than we can't talk about King Leopold, who cut people's hands simply because he wanted them to keep producing rubber. I mean, such wickedness. I mean, can we talk about the kings of England and what some of them did and the rest? The folly of many kings of Israel, I mean, are abandoned. Please, there is no such thing as a color and leadership. Leadership is a function of our relationship with God as a leader and how we allow Him to influence us. Okay, so and then the last one in this part one of this is that without whites, Africans or blacks will be lost or uncivilized. Please, that's what we have said. We were more than civilized before they came. In fact, many of us received Christianity. We received Christianity the same day Peter preached. Were there from Libya, from Ethiopia, and the rest. So the civilization that was triggered by the Christian faith, we had it first hand. We didn't receive it second hand from anybody, and we had already produced popes even before Armenia became the first European Christian kingdom. So that is also a big lie from hell itself. So thank you for watching this first part, and just get ready for the second part. God bless you for watching.